I've never been so depressed by the atmosphere at a party. The rules of truth and dare were such I couldn't refuse. And though inwardly I was scared and nervous, aloud I declared, like 2 fingers in a socket. Hi, I'm Angie, and my crush himself offered to date me, just so I wouldn't reveal his secret. I wonder how that worked out. Well, you must think about boys all the time. I bet we are all thinking about them every day. I wish Randy would ask me out to the skate park where he stunts on the frame. I can't wait when Theo asks me out for a ride with his car and a sea of blah, blah, blah. You think I'm not like that? Here he is. Tommy is my crush. The smartest, sportiest, most popular, cheerful, and successful at everything. Someone I have to spend the rest of my life with. And I don't care if I'm the only one who thinks so. And it's hard to believe, but I dated him. Yes, we broke up, but you have to agree, dating a guy like that is awesome. It all started that warm fall when my friend Mindy called me. Yo, Angie, whether you like it or not, we're going out to Clarice's house tonight. Wait, when? What about the permission? What about the makeup? If you were me, you'd panic too. Relax, girl, it's all taken care of. You'll get there. You've got 2 hours before the party starts. There was no time to lose. I immediately called my mom and asked her to let me go to the party. I'm really lucky to have my mom because she always lets me go, because we trust each other so much. And I never broke that trust. Well, it was just a matter of a few things. Choose the best outfit I own and put on my makeup to make everyone's jaws drop to the floor just looking at me. Red lipstick, tuxedo eyes, heels, cocktail attire, glamour, glitter, and I'm ready. Yeah, that was fast. If you can get it together just as fast, write about it in the comments. I did what I wished for. By the time I got to Mindy's, all the boys I met couldn't take their eyes off me. You learn P means perfect. Mindy was dressed to the max too, which meant that we were destined to be the center of the party that day. And we were. Well, almost. The party was awesome. Liters of Coke, rockin' music. We were moving to the beat of the best tracks. Until, at one point, Nick, the local ringleader, stood in the middle of the room and screamed at the top of his lungs, "Truth or dare!" That meant one thing. We were about to find out who was weak. I have already participated in this game more than once, so I gave in to the newcomers. It was deadly boring. No hard facts were learned, no frank confessions we heard, and the action was kind of fun, to be honest, with a stretch. I realized that without the intervention of the Queen of Games, Angie, this was indispensable. I came out and said, "This is all bullshit. Now I'm going to have to give you a master class in truth or dare." Someone yelled, "Action!" You have to sneak to the door, dress one of the gnomes in the backyard in your clothes, take selfies with him, and post to Instagram with the caption, "Me and my backyard man." However, the guy who got the assignment got through it pretty quickly. When he returned, he shouted out, "Hey Angie, can't you play?" Me? Easy. Action. Steal your crush's underwear and post a photo proof on Instagram. Everyone's staring at me. As I said at the beginning of my story, the party atmosphere didn't seem so fun anymore as soon as the conversation turned to my beloved Tommy. However, I had no right to show weakness and refuse. Like 2 fingers in a socket, I was given a cinch. The action had to be done within a few days. All night long, I thought about how I was going to do the damn thing. I couldn't go to Tommy's house because I simply didn't know where he lived. The only other option left was to sneak into the boys' locker room during pool class and take a picture before anyone found me. The next day, I couldn't sit still. During every lesson and every break, I wondered if I'd be able to do the task. Because showing up in the boys' locker room is like being on the news feed with one of those funny cases, after which people are ashamed to leave the house. Oh, and Mindy had to put more firewood on the fire. "Hey girl, I was checking my phone this morning and I didn't see any new pictures of Tommy's panties on your profile." I knew she was just messing with me, but still, it was really embarrassing. After Mindy, half of the school reminded me of the assignment. I even considered running away like a coward. But then something clicked in my head. "Hey, pretty lady, who's the party queen around here? You gotta do it. Or do you just want to go out there and in the blink of an eye ruin the spotless reputation that you've been building for months?" Well, when the time came, I snuck into the locker room like a spy in an expensive movie, passed by the janitor and the youngsters who were coming out of class. I believed in my success. After looking around and making sure the locker room was empty, I tiptoed in, trying to find Tommy's locker. And then I heard a noise, and I quickly hid under the bench. It was the swim coach. He looked suspiciously around the locker room and left. I opened Tommy's drawer of clothes. Oh, victory was so close. But I heard someone coming again. I hid right in the locker. But there was no other way out. Through the slits in the door, I saw Brittany, one of the cheerleaders. She was holding a stack of notebooks. Then Tommy walked up to her and held out a wad of money. Brittany handed Tommy the notebooks, to which he said something like, "Thanks for the homework." Then the guy with the tattoos from the basketball team showed up. Tommy paid him, too. Different guys came to my crush, and he gave them all money. Then the coach came into the locker room, but instead of berating Tommy, because the best swimmer in our school was missing his swim class, he told him this: "I gave you grades for the last 3 classes. Ah, thanks very much." Tommy smiled and held up a wad of money again, and this time to the coach. At that moment, I understood everything. Tommy wasn't really smart, or athletic, or popular. Tommy is just rich. He can buy himself anything. The cheerleader gets his homework, the guy on the basketball team gets his drills, and the coach gets him grades and swim scores. I was sure Tommy was going to leave now, so I grabbed his underwear, and then the door opened. We looked at each other in such shock for almost a minute that the elephant in the room would have surprised you less. "What are you doing in my locker? And why is my underwear in your hand?" Tommy wasn't a party goer, so not only did he have no idea he was my crush, but he also had no idea that I needed to take a picture of his underpants. I didn't know what to answer, and found nothing better to say than, "I saw everything. I know that all of your credit is bogus and the results are paid for. So, give me my underwear and get out of here," the guy yelled at me. "I'll tell everyone, and I'm not giving you these underwear." I jumped out of the locker and was about to leave when suddenly Tommy caught me, turned me around, kneeled down, made eyes like the cat in Shrek, and whispered, "Ask me anything you want. Money, cars, apartments. Just give me my underwear and don't tell anyone what you saw." You mean I can ask for anything I want? I really liked to tickle people's nerves. "Anything." He grasped my hand, his gaze even more touching. "So anything I want you'll do, no matter what I ask for?" He nodded like a dog on a car dashboard. It was really funny. "Well, I wish that you'd become my boyfriend." "What's that?" "Yeah, if you're ready to go out with me, I'll keep quiet about what I saw." I handed Tommy his underwear. "Well, okay, I'll be your boyfriend." He took his underwear and headed to his locker. All night long, I've been changing my social media profiles, tagging Tommy as my boyfriend. I made collages of us, and then texted him that he should ask me out on a date to the best burger joint in town, because I love burgers. When I woke up the next morning and decided to check my personal log, I was horrified. Well, in a good way. A bunch of girls were texting me that I wasn't worthy of Tommy. Some, on the contrary, offered me friendship and invited me to parties, except I was only supposed to go with my boyfriend. Someone directly threatened to kill me if I did not leave the handsome athlete alone. But that wasn't so bad. I still hadn't done my truth or dare assignment, and even though I was with Tommy, it didn't protect me from being called a wuss. I decided to go to school, though. Tommy was waiting outside the building with a bouquet of flowers. He clearly wasn't happy about something. "What is it, honey?" I hugged him and kissed him. He frowned. "It's okay, honey." We went inside. Remember what I said about my slack jaws that day when I went to the party? Well, they're even more slacky now, especially the girls' jaws. "Angie, wow!" That was Mindy. My friend ran up to me, hugged me, and whispered, "Consider yourself overqualified, because now you can post your crush's panties on Instagram every day." That sounded weird, but it made me feel better that my reputation wasn't damaged. We went to school with Tommy every day, and afterwards we'd go out to a cafe or an amusement park or a movie. I was happier than ever. But if you guys remember, I'm not seeing Tommy now. So why did we break up? While you're writing your guesses in the comments, you are writing, right? I'll tell you how it really happened. From the first day, I noticed that Tommy was walking around me like he had a bunch of sea urchins under his clothes. I tried to talk to him about it, but he wouldn't talk about it, until one day he decided to answer honestly. He was uncomfortable and didn't want to date me at all. He only spent time with me because I could expose his secret. I was hurt to hear that, because deep down I hoped Tommy liked me a little bit. I couldn't keep him around forever because our relationship did not bring him any joy. I wasn't as happy as I expected to be either. I swore to Tommy that I wouldn't tell anyone about his secret and would just let him go. And who wants a crush who hugs you grudgingly and gives you flowers automatically and doesn't feel anything for you? No one. That kind of crush is not a crush at all, if you ask me. What do you think? I think everyone who is steaming over relationship problems should watch this video. Give this video a like, because Angie the Party Queen deserves it. Also subscribe to the channel. No kidding, highly recommended, even though no one can outshine me. No one can outshine. You know what I think is the greatest injustice in life? The fact that you have to spend so much time studying. And this is in the best years, when you want to have fun with your friends, going on dates, go out, spend money on nice things. So now, instead of happily paying at the register for a fancy red bag, I have to sit in the principal's office and engage in this tedious parenting conversation. Hi, I'm Jill, and I once had to pretend to be poor so I wouldn't get kicked out of university. Miss Grace, would you like to take a break from your important business? Yes. I finished typing the message and looked up at the principal. The expression on his face did not bode well, so I put the phone away and tried to absorb the conversation. In this semester, I got terrible grades. Again. It's okay, it was like that before as well. Every time the director came to meet me and allowed me to continue studying further. Well, how to study. Attending classes, cursing every hour I spent on this stupid profession. I didn't want to be a lawyer at all, but my parents insisted that I continue their case. I've never understood parents who decide for a child what he or she will do for the rest of his or her life. But I loved my mom and dad very much, and I didn't want to upset them. Because if they got upset, the first thing they'll do is block my bank card. And then goodbye purses, dresses, and Starbucks coffee. Hello poverty and food from the university cafeteria that only poor people eat. Miss Grace, I just told you we're expelling you. What? I certainly didn't see that coming. I respect your parents very much, and more than once helped you pass from semester to semester, even with very bad grades. But if I do it again, I just lose credibility with the teachers. The principal wiped the sweat from his forehead. You study disgustingly. I doubt you're studying at all, Miss Grace. I am! I remembered that the best defense is attack. I come here every day. And sometimes I even go to the very first lectures, which, if you must know, start at 9 a.m. I know what time the first lectures start, Miss Grace. The man slammed his fist on the table, and I was instantly silent. I'm giving you one last chance. If you pass your exams next week with at least satisfactory, you will move on to the next semester. If not, get out of the university. That's it. Have a nice day. He didn't have to say it twice. I stormed out of the office. My boyfriend Nick, the bully and the object of adoration of all the girls, was already waiting for me at the door. What took you so long? Nick put his arm around my neck. Why are you so pale? What did the old geezer say to you? I'm getting expelled from the university. I tried my best not to cry. Really? That's cool. Me too. Now we can take a trip across the states with my car, just like we dreamed. What are you talking about, Nick? I broke free from his embrace. My parents won't survive if I get expelled. They'll kick me out of the house. I'll be out on the street. And I'd have to go to work. Just the thought of working made me shiver. I was ready to do anything so that this terrible scenario did not come true. And I didn't want to let my parents down. Meanwhile, Nick led me down the hall away from the principal's office. Come on, Jill, you'll think of something. You're smart. Smart is not the right word. Till now, I did not realize that it was necessary, at least sometimes, to do assignments and hand over essays. I had hoped that they would drag me till the graduation just because my parents were the most respected lawyers in the state. I had to think of something. Hey, asshole, watch where you're going. Before I could turn my back, one of the nerds had already fallen into Nick's clutches. The guy in the huge glasses looked at the 2-meter bully and it seems was already saying goodbye to life. Whatever. What kind of life is it? All the time for the books? Behind the books? Well, there it is. A nerd. There's my salvation. Let him go, Nick, I asked. But he's got his wooden head in my face. He's got to watch where he's going. Next time, he will. Let him go. I don't need a fight right now. I made my most unhappy face. It always worked on Nick. He was a bully, but he was always nice to me. Okay, live it up, Four Eyes. While Nick wasn't looking, I smiled encouragingly at the survivor. He faked a kind of smile in return. Why are you smiling? Nick barked, and the nerd vanished. The next day, all worked out for the best. Nick decided to blow off class. It was time to put my plan into action. I found Four Eyes in the cafeteria. He dined in the farthest corner, surrounded by the same excellent students. Redhead, tall, and nasty. Nasty got his nickname from me for his arrogant expression on his face. I would have made a simpler face if I were him. After I bought my coffee, I slipped to their table as quickly and inconspicuously as possible. Hey guys, can I sit down? The nerds stared at me like I was an angel descended from heaven, all except for Nasty, of course. He asked in a whisper, "Aren't you afraid of the prospect of repeating the fate of the anarchists in 1903? What? John says you might be expelled from your community of elite students, Redheaded explained. I admitted that I didn't understand even after he'd explained it to me. And when I did, I made a miserable face, forced a tear out of myself, and sank tiredly into the chair next to the tall one. What society? They don't even want to know me now. Jill! At the wrong time, the voice of Becky, one of my school friends, sounded behind me. I turned around and gestured for her to get the hell out of here. Becky shrugged her shoulders in surprise, and I went back to my act. My lawyer parents lost 2 huge cases, and now our family business is falling apart. Wow, Four Eyes sympathized. Now we have no money to pay for another semester. I'm allowed to work part-time on campus and at least partially pay until my parents could work things out, but I need to get my grades up in order to do that. It's a strange chain of logic. Nasty frowned. John, Redhead snapped at him. I'm sorry about that. Maybe we can help. Really? Could you? I was amazed at the willingness of the nerds to help me. I thought I'd have to sing them songs about my plight for more than one day, but here? Naive fools. We agreed to meet in the library after class, and I happily flew out of the dining room, immediately colliding with Becky. What was that all about? My friend was very unhappy. Jill, what would the guys say if they saw you with unwashed nerds? There was an elite society of rich parents' kids at the university. I always liked being a part of it. You could talk with the girls about fashion, boyfriends, makeup, go shopping together, take pictures for Instagram. I didn't want to lose their favor. Yesterday, I saved one of them from Nick and came over to remind him that he now owes me for the rest of his life. That was it. Becky was fine with that answer, but she took an oath from me that I would never approach the nerds again. I swore, bravely. The chance of my girlfriend going into the library was 0. When I arrived at the meeting, the nerds were already waiting for me at one of the tables. I put in front of them a list of subjects in which it was necessary to pass at least one essay or make a report. These are all of the subjects of the course. Do you study at all? Or are you just walking around dressed up? Nasty was in his repertoire. I burst into tears instead of answering, frightening my new acquaintances and all of the students in the room. The librarian shushed us, and Four Eyes asked me to keep my sobs down. I'll get some water. The tall stood up from his desk. I'll get the books. Redhead took my list from the table. I struggled not to burst into laughter. By the end of the day, I had 2 great reports on my email that for sure were about to fix my grades. If you only knew how hard it was to hide my social status from nerds, and to hide the nerds themselves from my friends. A couple of times, I almost bumped into my new pimpled friends when I walked with my friends at lunch to a cafe or to the store. One by one, abstracts, papers, presentations, and essays ended up in my email. Each paper was about 50 pages long. I couldn't understand how they could prepare so much in such a short time. Every time I talked to Redhead, Four Eyes, Tall, and Nasty, I had to play the beggar. No new outfits, no cab rides. I had to forget the good coffee in their company and replaced my expensive phone with one from the dinosaurs era. I even tried to keep the conversation going about shops with 80% discounts and where to buy a cheaper pass. With your brains, guys, I'd be making millions by now. I somehow didn't hold back. Too bad you don't have a brain, Nasty grumbled, glaring at me. In the meantime, the most important test awaited me, the oral exam in law. The nerds decided to prepare me properly and set up another meeting in the backyard of the university. When Redhead put a stack of tickets in front of me, my insides felt cold. I would never learn these by tomorrow. However, my new tutors promised that they would quickly train me. And indeed, in an hour, I could, albeit in general terms, answer a quarter of the tickets. Another 3 hours and you can safely hope for a satisfactory. The Four Eyes clapped his hands cheerfully and suddenly looked behind me and changed his face. I turned around and cried out in surprise. What the hell is going on here? Nick's eyes, appearing out of nowhere in the backyard, were bloodshot. Nick! I jumped up and tried to calm the boy down. I'll explain everything to you right now. We're preparing for the exam. So, you refused to go out with me tonight because you wanted to hang out with a bunch of pimply nerds? Which one are you going out with now? That smug freak? No, they're not. They're just helping me get my grades up and stay in school. I felt my boyfriend was about to start beating up John. Who needs them? Do you really think I would willingly hang out with these losers? I stopped in mid-sentence and looked back at the guys. They continued to sit on the grass, and in the eyes of each of them, even in the nasties, I read the pain of humiliation. After a moment, the nerds got up and, without saying a word, left. It was just me and Nick, and I'd never felt like such an asshole in my whole life. What I did was very sneaky. But on the other hand, I told the truth. If it wasn't for the grades, I never would have looked at the guys, who, meanwhile, immediately volunteered to help me in my trouble. I failed my last exam. However, thanks to the nerds, I passed all the others, and the director generously allowed me to stay at the university. Do you know what I did the next day? Picked up my papers. Of course, there was a huge scandal waiting for me at home, but I didn't want to go back to a profession I didn't like. And yes, I was ashamed of the nerds. Nick and I took a trip with his car, toured several states, and finally came home. I decided to do what I had always loved. I started sewing clothes. I thought back to my last day at university more and more. I was just about to leave when suddenly on the porch I was called by Nasty. He hesitated for a long time and then he said, "You're not so stupid, Jill." And from his lips, it sounded like a compliment. What do you think about lying for the sake of salvation? Should you lie if there's no other way?